Morning, everybody. My name is Mike Shields of Next to Media. I host the #1 podcast among assistant media planners in the U.S. I'm gonna have the panelists introduce themselves, and then we'll jump right in. Why don't we start in the end, Kevin?
Hello, everyone. Kevin Weigand, VP of Video and Audio Partnerships at Dentsu.
I'm Jake Richardson, VP of Strategic Partnerships at Gracenote.
I'm Edmund, Jules. I head up partnerships for DirecTV advertising.
Catherine Cho, lead PM at Index Exchange, responsible for streaming TV.
All right, Jake, I'm starting with you. It's interesting. If you think about like contextual in the broader online world, it was a big thing, and then we went really crazy with targeting, and it sort of made a comeback in recent years because of identity changes. TV is different because we're kind of starting from a different baseline. I guess why is it a thing now? Is it just because it's a capability that's emerging? Is it because streaming, something about the viewership patterns, things are changing? Like, what's kind of bringing this topic to the forefront?
Yeah, I think James kind of alluded to it at the outset. People have been pining for this for a long time, and advertisers used to be able to buy this way in TV. And then I think what you sort of alluded to in the question, which is when we went from analog to digital across every channel, not just TV, but we went from analog to digital, you had a bunch of pipes and ecosystem built around user-specific targeting. And in a display world where you can just always make a new ad and there's almost infinite supply, that makes a lot of sense, right? Because there's a lot that you can do there and the costs are pretty low. We sort of transposed that framework onto television in the same way. And what we've seen is that there's a lot of value from that. There's a lot of value from being hyper-specific about who you want to target a TV ad to. But there's a lot of trouble in scaling that. And when there's limited supply and you really do want to fill ad spots and it's a consumer experience problem, I think there are reasons to look for other ways to buy. It's not just exclusively we have to find the person who is in market, in DMA, for a minivan today. And if we don't find that person, we shouldn't run an ad. Mercedes runs ads for people all the time just so that they know that Mercedes is there, not so that they buy that Mercedes the second they see that ad. So contextual is a huge part of that. And what we're really excited about with this partnership, and I think what I'm excited about, what I joined Gracenote 5 months ago, I think, to do is we have this through line. Gracenote powers the consumer experience. Most people don't really interact with Gracenote on a daily basis, but you do. Whenever you go to stream, there is an identifier associated with every piece of content. There has to be. You go to your Fire TV. You can't search for The Simpsons and see 70 episodes of the same episode, right? You have to have some continuity. We power that. And so what we want is we want to make the advertiser buying experience look a lot like the consumer streaming experience. So that's a long-winded answer, but I think it is sort of getting back some of the controls that at TV buyers are used to having from the era of linear. We don't have to sacrifice, like we don't have to just go back to only day parting and contextual alignment, but we've got all of these tools. Why don't we use all of them?
Kevin, on that point, it's still relatively early in the evolution of CTV advertising, right? How much of this with your clients is this about? I'd like to have that old school knowledge about when and where my ad's going to run, like I used to in television, versus like a new strategic tool, perhaps that you can unlock different forms of targeting. I guess how much is it transparency, knowledge versus doing something new?
Yeah, so I think it's a few things, especially when we talk to clients who may have been in the legacy linear TV business. This is something they've been clamoring for the past handful of years, but basically getting some of that show level information, and it's something we've tried to work with the supply side and the ad tech side to solve for on the behalf of our clients. But I think on the other hand, we're really, I know we're still at the early stages of CTV advertising, but we're starting to see somewhat of a trend evolve where there's hyper premium and somewhat commoditized CTV within the space. And when there's kind of that like bifurcation of demand across each of them, more insight into what our clients view as premium, either for contextual alignment or just the resonance of their ads to the consumer. I think we're going to start to see more and more of our clients' desire for something like that. And always there's going to be that weight between how do you reach the audience with person-based targeting, contextual targeting, and weight between the two.
All right, Catherine, I want to bring you in here. This partnership is very new, right? But how is this fitting into your broader streaming advertising strategy? Like, how do you kind of blend this in right now? Where do you think it's going?
Yeah, at Index, our North Star has always been to build the actual most trusted and transparent marketplace for streaming TV. So this means listening to buyers and sellers like where they are. We know buy side need for actual content-based targeting or contextual targeting in depth, along with a brand safety requirement that's growing. On the publisher side, we have legitimate viewers' privacy concern that's showcased in VIPA, as well as the monetization risk, by if they have to share complete transparency content data in the open market. So, but the market is contextual targeting is more important than ever. Right now, IP address as we know it is eroding. Used to be the glue that actually bundles all the household IDs. Also, higher opt-out rates are limiting the targetable ads. So contextual is the privacy safe and truly scalable way to go to make our campaign relevant. And this is the reason why we're investing, Index is investing in our partnership with Gracenote to hit the balance between publishers' need for protection of their show level data while allowing and enabling the detailed contextual targeting for the buyers. So we're excited for the partnership.
So on that point, do you think, I was going to actually ask Kevin or anybody, are there going to be, like, I think in the broader digital world, there's a hope that there would be like contextual dollars that would come along. Is this going to be sort of just like part of your base level streaming advertising campaigns, or is it going to be like a different bucket maybe that funds this? I don't know if anybody has thoughts on that.
Go ahead. Yeah, I think kind of what I was alluding to before. I think we're going to start to see some sort of pyramid or flattening of the curve where our clients really start to look at where can they look at super performance-based dollars, and those might be tied to person-based behavior, audience behavior, and I think we're gonna start to see some of the more high impact, I guess awareness or brand dollars go towards this contextual, and more as we start to see some of the premium, maybe SVOD channels roll out their machine-based solution or machine learning-based solutions that can kind of bring you to a type of contextual genre, something like that. We're going to want to ensure that we get we can confirm that like the dollars are actually going towards a genre and can kind of validate it on the back end.
And I would add to that, if this partnership yields that there is just another vector that advertisers can layer on top of their existing user-based campaigns, it will be a failure, right? The goal is A, to expand the pie, like you mentioned, but B, to increase our ability to scale. Like we are tapping into fewer and fewer dollars than we used to be, all trying to sort of recreate the YouTube advertising experience on CTV. YouTube is incredible and it's really powerful for a lot of reasons, but like you get some ads where like, that's really, really hyper specific. There's a reason that, big brand dollars flow into really premium marquee television, exactly like you're talking about. I think those brands are dying for a way to target again and to do something that is defensible. And the best that we're giving them is, well, you ran against the email list that you sent us that we hashed into a bunch of IP addresses, so that's defensible. They would love something defensible that says, I ran against Sunday Night Football, I ran against Thursday Night Football. And I think, so anyways, I would say that there should be more dollars out there for this, and we have a responsibility as a room to not just treat this as another targeting layer. For the publishers that are here, I think they're all sort of concerned about that and should be. And I think for the buyers that are here that we really do want to expand the accessible budgets, not just zero in on more and more targeting.
Yeah, I was just one thing, just because you brought it up. Like sometimes the most excited I've seen one of our top clients or CMOs or whatever historically is when they get logs showing that they ran in Thursday Night Football. I think that's what you said. Like that really resonates with some of our top marketers, for better or for worse. And I think that is going to be something that is continued to be a desire.
That still matters, right? Like I want to know, I was in the big show last night. I saw my ad, like that still matters to a lot of clients. Yeah. Edmund, got to bring you into the conversation here. How do you balance this? This all sounds great from a buyer perspective. You probably need to balance their desire to know this stuff, use it, with there's always that fear of, I don't want people to cherry pick certain things and mess up my pricing, my blended CPMs, things like that. How do you kind of figure that balance out?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, we know there's a lot of complexity and I would say bifurcation or uncertainty as to, what you can or cannot do on the buy side. From a publisher perspective, we know like you want transparency, verification, some level of measurement, knowing where and when you ran. For us, like we look at metadata that's really powerful. We understand that we have capabilities today where we can create like genre-based packages, rating-based packages, knowing what clustering of networks that we can run that might align with an understanding of programming in which a buyer is looking to be in or not be in. But candidly, as a TV provider and distributor, we have limitations that exist around like contractual limitations with our major programmers that, programmers' bread and butter is you can go and sell a particular show and you can sell a particular series. We have some limitations around that. But we do have the capability to curate certain genre-based packages, like I mentioned before, and then really leveraging some of the powerful Gracenote data, and then we have solutions that you could provide from a reporting standpoint and transparency standpoint that you could see, hey, we targeted these specific genres that make a lot of sense for that particular contextual audience in which maybe a buyer is looking for. And now here's a third-party verified report to show the actual shows in which you ran on. So it's not anything that we can do from a upfront targeting standpoint, but it's something that we still feel like it's providing value and some transparency to the end buyer, which I think will evolve. But I think as of today, from a distributor standpoint, that's where we are. So.
Catherine, what about from your end? How do you figure out this balance between you want to cater to both sides of the equation without having anything sensitive or exposed? I know there are actually some legalities behind what could be in the bid stream, right?
Right. Yeah.
With
So
show level data. So how do you guys
right.
figure that?
The key here is the balancing the need for transparency from the buy side and the protection from the publisher side. And we were able to do it with a partnership with Gracenote that we just launched earlier this week. We launched the solution that integrates directly into our exchange, the Gracenote's contextual intelligence. And if I may give the gist of it, how it works. So TMS ID, that this is a Gracenote's identifier give per program. TMS ID is shared down, like passed down in the bit stream. And that TMS IDs, Gracenote knows actual metadata against those ID and be able to generate curated segments. And those curated segments are activated through deals and get run in campaigns. And after the campaign, we have post-campaign delivery report, as Edmund has mentioned, with the breakdown of where those delivery has made in terms of list of shows. So it's really the benefit here is the precision, right? Precision and scale. So we're giving the chance for publishers to be able to package their premium content while protecting or giving still be in control of where and how the detailed show level data is shared, as well as allowing, really unlocking the data contextual targeting capability for the buyer, and verification can be done as a post-campaign report. So I think this is sort of, we're trying to hit the best of both worlds, giving precision and protection given in the same solution. So we're super excited about this, the industry's first ever collaboration and scale.
And I think the only thing I would add to that is that I think Edmund alluded to this. This has existed on a publisher direct basis for a long time, and our goal is not to erode that. It's just more to provide standardization so that when Edmund tells you that you ran on sports, or when whatever other publisher, I won't say that, whatever publisher tells you that you ran on sports, you're talking about the same thing, because right now a lot of that is publisher declared, and so it creates sort of this normalization, standardization problem that is a nightmare for you guys, which is that, and then you also get like 15 different string variable versions of sports, right? So it's just really hard. We want to be the easy button so that you can buy this way and you can defend it with your clients this way. We don't want to be the way that you go from, hey, this person, this campaign underdelivered at 25%, and then they want to layer on contextual targeting. Like I said, that would be a failure of this partnership.
We're talking a lot about unlocking new value and precision and things like that. How much of, on the other side, do you, Edmund, I'll ask you, I'll start with you, but anybody can jump in. Is this going to be maybe used as a preventative measure? You know, TV doesn't have the same brand safety concerns as maybe a UGC platform, but are there clients that are say, keep me out of R-rated movies, keep me out of the news, stuff like that? Do you think there's going to be a lot of those tactics?
For sure. I mean, I think today we get a lot I from a buyer standpoint.
Keep me out of Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah. good timing on that. Yeah, I mean, you know, to your example, like TVMA, R-rated, or I mean, news obviously a very hot topic, and people don't want to be, you know, even on certain news networks, cable networks, certain people, you know, even certain hours and shows and you know, heads of kind of, you know, nightly news that they're like, I absolutely do not want my ad running during that at any point in time. So I think, I mean, we, like I was mentioning before, we have ways in which we work to help abide by that and ensure that we have the right contextual targeting in place without saying, yes, we can specifically remove Hannity as an example from, you know, from the buy. More of like, hey, we know what network they're running. You know, we understand the genre signals. We know it might be X rating, so we can remove some of that to abide by kind of the interest of the buyer at the end of the day.
Better not censor Hannity, man. Be careful about that. What about with every new tactic like this, there's always going to be, especially in this environment, you know, did it work? Can you prove that it's more effective? Do you think this category is going to get that kind of pressure? And are there different ways of proving, quote unquote, that this stuff worked? You know, maybe it's not shopping oriented or as, you know, performing as other tactics, but is there going to be pressure to kind of prove that?
I think it came down to what Kevin said, right? Which is that on some level, brands do just want to run against content they've heard of. That could be a proxy for what works. And that money, you know, when all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. If all you have is the ability to say, well, you ran against Jake while he was watching Thursday Night Football, just Jake while he was watching TV, you kind of just get right with that. So the hope is that we can, the funnel has a lot of different KPIs. And I think we've been honed in on driving some sort of a conversion as the KPI for TV. And if we can just expand that list of KPIs, I think that's value in and of itself, because then those brand dollars can start to flow back in a defensible way rather than just sort of saying, I got to go to X platform because they have just the most scale and reach. I don't know, but you're the buyer, so you should.
Yeah, I mean, I think like the standardization that these technological advancements are bringing us, like from an agency standpoint, we need to make sure like how good is terabytes of data if you don't know what to do with it. So I think standardization obviously helps with some of those conversations. Can we get this information in? Can we validate it? Can we validate the programming running? And then can we attribute some sort of KPI to it to prove out success, whether it's ROAS or just basically validating that it showed success. Yeah.
Catherine, what kind of, you know, again, this partnership's brand new. We're pretty early in this conversation, but what are some challenges we still need to overcome in trying to scale the show level solutions?
Yeah, I would actually say the challenges that we're trying to tackle here with the partnership is actually what we see in the market, like the signal availability, scale, as well as the metadata standardization. Like when we see the same TV show, depending on which system you're taking the log from, could actually have different, like you can't really match the titles. There's sometimes like special characters like handled differently. Even the title itself could be tweaked quite a bit. So this partnership with Gracenote allows us to overcome a lot of those 3-level standardization as well as the scale. We're bringing the balance again, like of listening to both side of buy and sell side. And I think so I would say the challenge is in the three prong, and then this integration is one of the way for us to tackle it and then bring the solution in scale. So.
And what about from your point of view? What still needs to be ironed out as you kind of go forward here?
Yeah, I mean, not to say standardization again, but I mean, I think there is a level of standardization that everyone needs to align on. And I think, when we have conversations with buyers, knowing that, hey, you're creating a genre-based package for us because we want XYZ contextual target. We're like, how are you doing that? And it's like, hey, it's reputable that we're partnering with Gracenote to have this level of data. They power, every other distributor, programmer, and so on and so forth from an alignment perspective. And then I would also say from like the buy side, we sometimes definitely get a little mixed signals of what, no pun intended with the signals thing, but mixed signals on exactly what is wanted and needed. And sometimes it's, oh yeah, we want full transparency on everything, but also like the platform support that you can bid and buy against certain components as well. So I think that there's
You might not actually know what you want yet.
yeah.
Well,
I mean, for sure, I understand like from a buy side, and I would be the same way. You want transparency. I want to know exactly where I'm running, and I want to be able to target to a pretty finite degree on certain content. But then maybe sometimes in practice, is it like, are you actually executing that way, or is it more of a nice to have of around outcome from a reporting standpoint and insight to know that, all right, I'm doing a buy with this particular supply source. I actually trust them. And they said they were going to run where they actually ran. Here's some verification behind it. And maybe not necessarily in real time bidding on signals that, will be, at least immediately now, will be the point in which, a lot of folks are doing.
We have I have some more thoughts, but we have anybody in the audience want to jump in with some questions? Take my mic if you want.
I've got one. I think just one thing I'm curious about is the TMS ID, the Gracenote ID. It's such a universally sort of adopted thing on the linear side. I'm just curious, as you're looking at a wider set of digital inventory, where there's original content, there's a variety of different sources of video. Some of it's translated from the digital platforms into a connected TV environment. Can you still how universal is that level of transparency?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So the TMS ID, and sorry for those that are confused, Gracenote was purchased by Tribune Media Services, TMS. This is, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And then they rebranded to Gracenote because they liked the brand name more, but the TMS ID sort of stuck. So if you hear those things being used interchangeably, the TMS ID is the Gracenote ID, the Gracenote ID is the TMS ID. The TMS ID powered all of linear. It also powers most all of streaming as well. There are some complications because FAST is just so proliferate, right? There's just so much content out there, but that's a market that we're tackling in the streaming side. We also have an electronic programming guide, so anytime that you are on any streaming service and you see the TV guide, we're powering that as well. So it's kind of a part of that two-pronged approach to helping, I don't know what you would call it, sort of, arrange that ecosystem so that it's all very digestible for all of us. So we have a huge and growing coverage in the streaming space. I mean, well over the majority of programs have an associated TMS ID. But I think the point that Catherine and Edmund are making is also valid, which is that not everyone wants to pass that into the advertising ecosystem. It has to be used on the consumer side. We would all stop watching if your TV guide was just like a jump. If it was like Ask Jeeves, if it was like an Ask Jeeves search, you'd just be like, I don't want to watch this anymore. So it doesn't get passed along on the advertising side all of the time. And so we're leveraging both the EPG guide and all of our sort of content signal mappings to map everything to a TMS ID, that core standard of truth that we have, so that when the newest episode of The Pit comes on, or Suits LA, or whatever, we know, okay, this is that TMS ID. And then whatever it is that you want, advertiser, do you want to run against shows with this actor, Happy Gilmore, right? It's coming out. If you want to run against all Adam Sandler movies, run against that. Create that segment, whatever it looks like. So anyways, long answer to your short question. It also powers the digital ecosystem. There are gaps because FAST is large and growing, but those are gaps that the other side of our business is tackling to continue to expand that coverage, and it's still much more than the overwhelming majority.
Yeah, we have an integration solution in mind to tackle those fast apps if there is a coverage gap. But I think you're being modest. I think Gracenote has the largest coverage for understanding digital and TV content.
My
So-
comms team's gonna watch this, so I can't tell you. But it is, yes, it's well over half. It's like much more than half.
And I'll just say to add on to that, to your point, like, I mean, we have what we call like digital first or some fast networks that are behind the paywall, and then we have a free service as well. And candidly, when we first started onboarding a lot of those, we're like semi-concerned around how are we going to package this with some of the existing genre-based deals that we have, or rating-based deals and other things like that. But we curated them, really those networks in a way, and we worked with Gracenote that all of those are passing the same level of identifiers, so we're able to leverage that content to still make it part of an attractive offering based off of a particular genre target or contextual target that someone's looking for.
And it's all happening on Index platform.
Anybody else? I have one closing thought. Where could this go? Down the road, there's some thinking that we'll have research that certain types of shows put people in a different mindset and makes them more receptive to funny ads or shopping or other kinds of things. Do you think we'll see some kind of more sophisticated mood targeting or anything along those lines?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was gonna say I definitely think so. I think like sentiment is gonna be something that's pretty big. Understanding someone's watching a show that it's very happy-go-lucky. They don't necessarily maybe want to see an ad for a horror movie that's coming up like on the next break. So it's something that might be more aligned with that particular content. So I think sentiment and mood-based is very interesting, and I think that's something has even been asked from us around from certain buyers, and I think it's more about how are we going to put that into practice and how are you going to transact against it.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I think I kind of touched on this a little bit before, but like as we start to see, especially with the growth of fast, some of the bundling on the sales side to the demand side, I think some of the smarter advertisers are going to be utilizing signals like this to really start to validate as prices start to get lower. How do we actually, quote unquote, like arbitrage this inventory to get more contextual signals and things like that to actually get more premiumness in what they're buying relative to other advertisers in the space that may be buying that inventory in like a shotgun approach. So I think that's where we're going to see some of the initial lean-ins, and then a bigger marketplace will develop from there.
Yeah, just layering on to what Kevin Edmund has said, I'm going to push the envelope even further, like mood and emotion per scene. I think that's like a holy grail of where we want to get to within the same show or program. Like think of like live sports event, right? The crowd, like a winning crowd, has very different emotion and energy than the losing crowd, right? So what we're building here is a foundational that we're going to tackle the show level, and then we're going to go into scene level emotions and energy. And there's a study that I saw that like viewers' attention more than doubles when the ads match the emotion of the content where it's running at the scene level. So that's our next wave and holy grail we'll be going after.
And I would just add to that, we know anecdotally that what you're watching is super, super important for driving any sort of outcome. High funnel, low funnel. I think I worked at a performance DSP at one point, and there's all of these ex-YouTube TrueView engineers, and they said, yeah, the biggest lie that the programmatic ecosystem doesn't even understand is that like users not that important. Whether or not some of us are in the same segment isn't really that indicative of our behavior. But humans all act really, really similar when they're about to make a decision. We don't act very similar, based on like some of our variables. But then when we're about to buy, I don't know, home gardening supplies, we all behave really, really similarly. And I think we can't have a panel without saying AI. With AI lowering the barrier to entry on a lot of this stuff, I think that there will, intrinsically, we have the ability to start doing much more of what you're talking about, Catherine, and what everyone's talking about, which is aligning the ad to the content to drive a richer consumer experience and ultimately a better advertiser outcome.
Any other questions? Cool. So like I mentioned, this is my 4th week, so I can't take credit for any of this. So Catherine and Josh on my team helped out a lot, but when I joined, I was asking questions because I've been dreaming about something like this for a long time, for 2 or 3 years, and trying to make this work. I was talking to Jake, and I was like, this is one of the holy grails of CTV right now, is figuring out contextual buys in a privacy-safe way for publishers. So Edmund can say, I can only do this at the genre level or at the rating level, or some other publisher, broadcaster, VMVPD might want to make that more granular. Like, this is a package of shows. They can go that level. It's also VPPA compliant for anybody who has that in the back of their head. We're making sure that nobody can back in to a specific user and their viewing behavior. So this is really, really exciting. When I came on board and I heard that this is one of the things, this is literally one of the top things I'm most excited about that Index is working on with Gracenote. So I hope it's all making you excited as well. But stick around, mingle, ask questions to the Index team, Jake, Gracenote. We're going to be around, so thank you again for joining us. And if you're still eating because it was trying to be quiet, please feel free to do that too. All right, thanks.
Thank you all.
Thank you.